Good morning, welcome to the Breakfast Club. My name is Toya Singh and today we're taking a look at a familiar topic but in a different manner. We often discuss what it is that the Gen Z and millennial generations want from their workspaces, and we've analyzed it from multiple different angles. But today what we're taking a look at are the fresh results of a Deloitte survey that found that what it is that both Gen Z and millennials want more from their bosses of is mentorship, guidance, support structures. What does that actually look like in the workplace? We're going to discuss right here on the show.
And talk about championing workplace, but what about championing mountains? And that is what is going to be our focus and our person of interest today. He used to be a guard at a police commissioner's office, but guess what? He's gone ahead to champion Mount Everest. Our person of interest today comes in from Bengal. We'll talk about all of that. I'm Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor. Let's get started. Deloitte survey reveals what youth want. Does mentorship gap widen? Gen Z demands structure, not micromanagement. Growth gap inside India's workplaces. What exactly is that? How is it expanding? Employers talk learning. Gen Z doesn't really see it like that.
All right, and after that, as we promised, we take you to Mount Everest, where a Bengal constable climbed the world's tallest peak, and he talks to us a little bit about what made him decide to do it. We have Lakshmikanta Mandal joining us right here on the show. He talks to us about prep, how he decided to do it, who inspired him, and what he plans to do next.
Also coming up on the program, the Lamborghini latest edition has been unveiled. It is a 6 crore hybrid supercar. What exactly is the review? How is it different from the previous one? Overdrive will have the verdict. We've seen hundreds of surveys really on Gen Z and millennials of late, but today's numbers we present to you are going to tell you a very different story. This is Deloitte's 2025 Global Gen Z and Millennial Survey. They spoke to over 23,000 young people across 44 countries, including 809 here in India. And what they came out with is a fascinating story.
While the global patterns that the study revealed feel familiar, what stood out this year was actually something deeper. Not just what Gen Z and millennials in India are choosing, but what they're walking away from. We're zooming in on two big talking points today that came out of that same study. Number one, the promise of mentorship and learning at the workplace. And number two, the rising cost, both literal and emotional, of deciding to go in for a higher education.
So let's start with the big theme this year, and this is what we've discussed multiple times here on the Breakfast Club as well. This is a theme that has really been the murmur inside colleges as well. Higher education and the value it brings to your CV and maybe your life as well. The gaps in there and why it's really not delivering. So let's first look at what the Deloitte survey actually says on higher education. The survey actually goes on to show India still believes in education, but with rising doubts. Only 11% of Gen Zs and 9% of millennials in India say they plan to skip higher education altogether. That's far below the global average though, remember.
Okay, let's double click on those numbers. So 52% of Gen Z, 44% of millennials. So those who had skipped it, off that number when we asked them further questions, 52% of Gen Z, 44% of millennials say the reason they might want to skip it is financial constraints. That seems obvious, but 36% also point to a lack of interest in traditional education. 30% were worried about debt that could come from student loans. 30% want more flexibility and they want learning on their own terms.
Right, and when it comes to the education system itself, a couple of more numbers to sort of build a whole picture for you. 35% of Gen Zs and 37% of millennials are concerned about the quality of education. And about 30% say they are limited practical opportunities. That's the reason why they don't really believe in the system. 29% say that the curriculum is irrelevant to today's market. Well, we all know how that feels, right? and 28% said that they're unhappy with the higher cost of tuition that is attached to the higher education. Only 10% find flexibility in learning options. And this is, of course, it's an exit not from learning, but from institutions that aren't really keeping up. And that seems to be the focus over here.
And that seems to resonate with things we've discussed right here on the show.
Yeah.
But let's bring in our guest today to take a deeper dive into this. Anandaroop Ghosh is here with us. He's a partner at Deloitte India. We're also joined by Jeel Gandhi, the CEO of Under 25. Good morning, both of you. Thank you for joining us here on the Breakfast Club. Let's go very quickly first over to Anandaroop, just to understand more about the data first. Anandaroop, tell us, when Deloitte decided to collect these numbers, saw the data come back, and today we're focusing on two particular data sets, though for our audiences, the study does dive deeper on various different points. But if you just take a look at those numbers, first tell us, Anandaroop, when you compare the disillusionment with higher education in India to the global numbers, just broadly first, what were the patterns you saw? What was shocking for you? Bring us your insight.
Thanks. First of all, thanks for having Deloitte on this show. But I wouldn't say that this was shocking in a sense, because this has been building up over a period of time.
Yeah.
There are the numbers that we saw in this study vis-a-vis the numbers that we see in the macroeconomic economy in terms of RBI data, in terms of how people are reacting to education, etc. This has been building up, and I'm sure your other guests will also feel the same way. But so first of all, it's not shocking to say that this is a new number that we are seeing. This is a number that's been discovered over a period of time. It's just that the gap seems to become bigger and bigger with each passing year, and that's, I think, the cause for concern for all of us.
Right, because what you're saying, Mr. Ghosh, is very similar to the headlines we've had in a couple of months at least. We've talked about how startups are the new MBAs. People don't want to sign up for IIMs anymore when they finally can get a job opportunity at a startup. We've looked at how MBAs, more and more IIMs in the country are finding it hard to sort of recruit, and number also actually not going up that much. So all of it, you're right, adds on to this picture. But Jeel actually is the CEO of Under 25. She's sitting in middle of the youngest, brightest, most restless people in the country. So I want to understand from her, is there a reason for this number to have shot up the way it has? We've discussed a few, loans being one, not finding applicability is one. Are there other anecdotes that you want to share with us?
Sure. Thank you, Sonal, for having me on this panel. I think I completely understand this trend, because this is something that we see every day, right? The community that we interact with on a daily basis, and also our team that is largely under the age of 25, they want more and more practical experiences, like we saw earlier as well. What we understand is that they don't get these real world experiences at schools and colleges enough. Real world skills like from prompt engineering in the age of AI, like Gen AI is real, to content creation, which is also a very real career choice now. From people management to digital marketing, formal education provides very limited coverage on this. And learning has become extremely crucial. More than that, learning across different functions and skill sets has become very crucial. Gone are the times when you kind of specialize only in one thing. Now you got to have technical expertise, plus you got to create good content, plus you got to tell the world about it. So it's very multi-skill set orientation that's required. And we do see schools and colleges in the last few years that have come up, which do provide practical experiences, industrial leaders as mentors, but they're very expensive, sometimes even up to 3x of what top conventional schools charge. Right, so that's a huge financial burden in that sense. Also, we're talking to a generation that do like to fund themselves, right? So they start working at the age of 16, 17, 18, and they want to fund their education. They're already insecure about how their lifestyle will be met by their income. So add to that, student loan is a major cause of concern. Therefore, you see micro gigs, internships, even moonlighting as a very real scenario.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, let's just go back to that original number that we were talking about, Anandarup. When we told our audiences earlier that 11% of Gen Z, 9% of millennials in India are saying they're planning to skip education that is of a higher level, that number, are we correct in assuming, is lower than the global average? And does that show that in India, even though that number is rising over the years, there is still a traditional belief in the institution of higher education?
There is a fundamental belief, because obviously these numbers are not 85% or 90%. These are still smaller numbers. But so there is a belief in higher education. The problems are, and like Jill was mentioning, the first challenge is that of funding. The cost of higher education is increasing pretty much double the inflation rate in the economy. If you look at RBI data, in the last 5 years, the value of student loans outstanding in the system has doubled. It's about 1.3 lakh crores right now.
Okay.
A lot of it is also for students who are going abroad, to be fair. The cost of the value of jobs after going through their education is not as much.
Okay.
Only about, if you look at our study reports that come out every year, the India Skills Report that comes out, which basically says about 50% of all graduates and postgraduates are employable by companies and employable by a standard testing system that provides.
Yeah.
So when you're spending that amount of money, which is only increasing every year, and then you come out in the job market and are not considered employable, what's the value for that? The second data point, and this is something that's been talked about a fair bit, and the first time it was highlighted, I think, was in the ILO report that came out about a year and a half back, was that in India, actually, the chances of being unemployed goes up with higher education. So at lesser education levels, you have a greater chance of being...
Have I heard that right? You said chances of being unemployed goes up with higher education?
Yeah, so you have to also layer it with the fact that the quality of employment changes, but the fact that you have a job goes down with higher education. 29% of the postgraduates in India are not employed. 3.5% of people who can't read and write in India are not employed. So obviously there's a quality difference in the nature of jobs, but the availability of the job changes with the level of education. This is data that's been around for the last, like I said, about a year and a half or so.
So, Anandarup, if we could ask you, is that also because for PhDs, for example, there are just fewer jobs in the market? Is it a skill difference that, PhDs who qualify don't have the skills? What are you finding?
Higher education is not just something as verified as a PhD. That's obviously the highest end of that entire system. But yes, the fact is that the number of jobs available for the kind of talent that you are trying to get to after having done their higher education, after doing a particular kind of specialization, is not going up the same rate. And even though the jobs might be available, and that's, I think, an important distinction to make, the jobs might still be available. The skill match to the job might not exist. So I might not have developed the kind of skill that I need for the job that a master's or an engineering graduate is expected to do.
Very fascinating points. Very, very fascinating points, Mr. Ghosh. And I just want to take a pause there because I want to digest all those numbers, everything that you've just said. Also, I think the takeaway for me is the blue-collar jobs versus white-collar jobs with an AI onset. What increases, what decreases. I think the proportion there is also very clear, and that could be one of the factors as well. But Jill, I want to understand your perspective. When you say that, okay, people have realized, young kids have realized, young adults have realized that there isn't much that higher education is offering them, then what are they going to instead? If I say that, okay, IIM is not for me, then what is really attracting them?
Like I said, micro gigs, internships, moonlighting, right? Like if you are working a day job which teaches you, let's say, about where you learn about maybe marketing, you're actually also working as a content creator for yourself, right? Because both of these things help each other. If you understand digital marketing better, you can be a better content creator. If you're a better content creator, it helps you with digital marketing. So what they try to do is, and this I see rampant with my team, with the interns that we work with, they do multiple internships, they do multiple jobs. They try to work with different people across different industries and functions so that they can learn more and they can pick what they actually like, right? So that real experience is what helps them decide better and actually quicker in their career progression.
Yeah, but does that translate into a job profile or perhaps a package that is matching of a higher education? I've always wondered.
It does. So one is the job profile part, and the compensation part is of course separate. When we talk about job profile, when we look at job profiles, what we see is somebody who's a hustler. What we see is somebody who has experience across multiple functions, and therefore would be able to think better rather than someone who has horse blinds on and is able to think only in one direction, right? So gone are the days, like this was the industrial revolution, right, where everything was on a factory line and everyone had only one job. Now it's gone. It's more of generalist. Of course, you need technical skills, but you need all of these generalist skills to kind of build your profile up. And coming to compensation, they also find it better to negotiate the remuneration, because they'll be like, hey, I am moving into a full-time job with you. Therefore, I am giving up 3 of my freelance assignments and 2 of my other jobs. So this is my take-home pay, and this is what I would like to be compensated if I'm stopping everything. Right.
Okay.
So from a compensation standpoint, it doesn't really offer a lot of advantage to the employers. It's actually a disadvantage in that sense. And retention becomes a major challenge, because they have so many things going on. So they can actually move into something that suddenly clicks better or more for them.
Okay, so let's just very quickly then, because there is a second section, a second set of data we want to present our audiences. But before we do that, Mr. Ghosh, let's just come back to you for one last question, because we just touched on this with Jeel too. 5 years from now, Sonal, you just talked about the advent of AI coming in. How do you see each of these areas, so blue-collar jobs, white-collar jobs, getting affected by the changing patterns?
So, I mean, AI is obviously everybody's, it's a big unknown for everybody. Right?
Yeah.
So, but see, the thing about blue-collar jobs is any job that involves, working with your hands, typically cannot be taken over by a machine or by AI. Can be taken over by robots in some parts, but a lot of blue-collar jobs are yet not being factored here. The part that is being that AI is going to impact the most are white-collar procedural jobs. So the entry-level jobs that involve procedural activities are the ones that are the first to go from an AI perspective. The extent of which, whether this will stop at only procedural or whether it will go up the hierarchy of jobs, etc., is something that we are still discovering. You've heard of agentic AI and how that is impacting a lot of other activities beyond just procedural as well. Are things that we'll discover over a period of time.
Okay.
But blue collar may not be as much right away.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a deeper dive into what can be done in terms of changes now. So how structures can be made better. Let's move on to the second big theme in this survey: learning and development learning and growth. These are no longer perks, they're deal breakers. So what do we mean when we say that? Across India, Gen Z and millennial workforces, career decisions are now driven by progression. So let's take a look at what the survey found. Let's pull up the next set of data. 47% of Indian Gen Z, 53% of millennials, 1 in every 2 almost, believe their managers should closely oversee day-to-day tasks, but only 33% of millennials say that in their day-to-day that's actually happening. 62% of Gen Z want managers to provide guidance and support to team members, but only 36%, that's another massive fall, say that they are actually getting that in their day-to-day. 44% of Gen Zs say they want managers to inspire and motivate them, but 35% say that they're actually getting that in the day-to-day. 39% want boundaries and work-life structure, but again, only 32% are saying that they are actually getting that in their workplace.
So it's a clear gap, right? Now, what youth expect from leadership versus what leadership is actually delivering. It could be a factor of multiple reasons. We'll discuss that with the guests, but let's sort of look at these numbers a little more. Now, top 2 ways employers can actually support learning needs. 24%, this was the question asked in the survey again, 24% want access to learning platforms and subscriptions. 23% want one-on-one mentorship with experts in their area. 20% want in-house upskilling programs. 20% want freedom to learn without micromanagement, and there's a thin line there between day-to-day sort of hand-holding and micromanagement for managers to sort of look it through as well. In short, they're not just asking for growth, they are starved for it. So how exactly are Gen Z and millennials looking at this sort of leadership quality in the older generation? Let's take that back to our guests. Mr. Ghosh and Jeel is again with us. Mr. Ghosh, this is where AI can't help. This is where humans' intelligence has to step in and human adaptation has to come in, and largely adaptation from an older generation. We have spoken about this topic multiple times here on TBC on how culture is just eating strategy for breakfast, right? And here, so how exactly is Deloitte feeling this change come through in older traditional organizations?
Actually, the roots of it start in general HR and organizational thinking. You know, and you would have all seen this, all four of us and everybody listening in, that you know, managers get promoted not for management skills but for the fact that they do the job better. So if I'm a great sales guy, I get promoted because I've been doing sales better, but that doesn't mean that I become a better manager.
That's true.
I hope that some of them will become better managers, and they may or may not be. So, and that's true for across most organizations in the world, I would. And so what's happening right now is that with a organizational situation which is fraught with a lot of concern and fear. Like, as a new employee today, I'm worried about like that whole AI question. What's going to happen to my job? What should I learn? What should I develop myself on? What's the next 5-10 years going to look like for me? Every day I'm being bombarded by, from morning news to late night news, that there is AI is going to change something of your home. So that concern can be assuaged by a manager who can mentor me and explain the context to me and help me in the path. The manager might not entirely know the answers as well, but at least as long as he or she is able to walk along with me down that path. But are those managers equipped to do that? Because like we said, most of them grow because they have done their job better.
Yeah.
So there's a statistic in the study that I wanted to highlight. The statistic says that about 13% of a manager's time is spent on people development activities. 75% is spent on administrative activities. So you're spending that minuscule amount of time on actually helping the person, and the 13% is obviously an average and so on and so forth. But there's a very small amount of time that actually goes in talking to employees about what is it that matters to them for their future, what are the worries that they're working. And that capability, unfortunately, is a weak capability across most managers, most parts of the world, India included.
Let's go to Jeel then, just to double click on exactly this. Jeel, it seems like one could say it sounds like a contradiction. On one side, you're saying you want one-on-one mentorship to increase, but on the other side, you're saying you don't want micromanagement. But what does that sweet spot in practicality actually look at? And I want to understand across the board, what are Indian employers getting correct when it comes to striking this balance, especially in comparison to their international counterparts?
Okay, so there are two key things here. One is the learning model or the mentorship model has completely shifted to a very DIY experimental learning. Let me explain that better. Gen Z and millennials speak very different languages, and they operate very differently. Managers need to provide purpose, impact, learning, and goal. They can't just provide direction. Mentorship that earlier worked, let's say for millennials, was that you observe your mentor very closely, you see what they do, you learn what they do and how they do it, then you practice it and you grow from it, and then you develop a personal style, right? But with the Gen Z, it's the other way. They have their personal style. They want to learn on their own terms. So what they actually want is, and this is what we've discussed with the community that we have, they want mentors to help them understand what is the goal and the purpose of the activity that the managers want them to do. Give them a sense of what can be done, things that they're supposed to be cautious about, but then leave them to experiment and learn. Only when they are stuck, they want to be able to reach out to the manager and ask for more guidance. So it's a very experimental, I will try this, I will fall, I will fail a little. but I need your help. I still need that safety net, which is why I need you around. So that is where mentorship has changed. The second thing that they desperately need, which is going back to the points that we discussed earlier, they want multiple skills, right? So they don't want to focus on only one thing, which means they need skill-wise mentors. So while I can learn finance from someone, I want to also learn content creation from someone else. So finding one mentor who's my one single reporting manager is not enough anymore. So that's a basic structural change that we have to now see, that your manager does not automatically become your mentor. Mentorship is going to need us to break the hierarchies, break the structures, break the traditional norms of how teams operate, so that people can actually go and Olympics.
Got it. Very,
Yeah.
very cool points over there, Jeel. But I have to ask the very hard question then. And this is both for you and Mr. Ghosh as well. With the advent of AI, with AI being your therapist, your counselor, your mentor, all wrapped into one, available 24/7 at the click of a button, how hard it is becoming for managers to actually add value, to become that listener as well. And aren't we at a situation where this entire upskilling has to happen for the previous generation before you even start talking about Gen Z and millennials? To Mr. Ghosh first.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. If you were to ask me personally, do I have all the answers to tell the people who are working with me? I don't. And I am perhaps as uncertain about what artificial intelligence or any form of technology is going to do to our jobs as anybody else.
That's brave of you to say.
It's a fact, right? I mean, I guess all four of us here would agree to it that we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's just how are we able to adapt to it and be able to skill ourselves to be able to work with this new technology. And that's what organizations ought to be doing a lot more. We don't have the answers, but how soon are we able to identify options or means to be able to provide some level of support as the technology evolves for the next 3, 5, 7 years? No one training, no one skilling can maybe work with you for the next 10 years. It'll have to be in short bursts, etc. So I think you're right that it's also fundamentally about managers being trained, organizations being ready to make their investment in people capability development. That will then start making trickling down to Gen Zs having more confidence at work, more confidence from their managers also.
Sure. I have last 1 minute, so I want to give it to Jeel very quickly on how managers are sort of really struggling to add value with the advent of ChatGPT being their, online therapist available 24/7.
When we work with our team, what I actually see is AI is such a big strength because they find that support that they otherwise need from managers, which is a constant support and help and direction. AI provides that. And again, going back to their habit of DIY learning or experimental learning, what we can do is provide them a lot more subscriptions, because it's almost every other week that one person from my team will come to me and they'll be like, there's this new crazy tool that has come, can I please subscribe to it? It's really insane, it'll help my work like this. When you give them the opportunity to test and try these tools, what comes out of it is fresher ideas, newer and more productive solutions, an out-of-box approach to things, right? So I think what we need to also, as managers, do is allow them to play with the technology a little bit and eventually learn in that process. So there's reverse learning. When my junior tells me, hey, this is how I use ChatGPT, Ansora, and like a bunch of other tools, and this is my work product, that's a learning moment for me. You cannot go back to formal training sessions because AI is changing so quick. What you learn this week is going to be very different from what comes out next week. So I think that reverse learning is what is required at managers' end, and the ability to give free hand to
Resources.
to the Gen Z to use the resources that they like. That's
But also
critical.
inherently, I think part of what you're touching on is the trust. The trust that even when they are playing, not be worried about the product, give them that freedom to explore. It has been lovely, Jeel and Anandaru. Thank you both for bringing us your insight. This has been a wonderful conversation, ending on a wonderful note, right? We're essentially saying allow people to play, to discover what it is that they want to do. Okay, we're going to draw this to a close and move on now. All right, moving on now to something slightly different. After the break, we are taking you to Bengal's constable who is climbing the world's tallest peak, or rather has climbed the world's tallest peak. He is going to tell us. Lakshmikanta Mandal is going to break down for us why he decided to do it, how he did it, and what he wants to do next. In just a few minutes, stay with us.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
The world in the next couple of years to become the third largest economy globally. Joining me now is Dr. Sanjeev Sanyal, economist and member of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council. Thank you very much. First of all, many congratulations. India now the fourth largest economy officially as per the IMF's outlook that came out over the weekend. What is fascinating though is the speed at which it has happened. Every trillion. The first trillion got crossed in 2007. The second trillion took another 7 years from 2007 to 2014. Then the next trillion from 2014 to 2021. But the last trillion, that is from 3 trillion to 4 trillion, has gone in just the last 4 years. What would you attribute this faster pace of growth to, so much so India is now the fourth largest economy in the world?
Well, welcome to the joys of compounding. As with any kind of compounding, it is the result of now some 35 odd years of sustained growth. But what is interesting is that since in the post-COVID period, India has not only grown at a consistent pace, but by a very large margin over other large economies. So growing at somewhere in the 6 to 7% range consistently when many countries, most countries in the world are struggling to even manage 2-3% growth. In fact, countries like Japan or Germany are barely growing at all. So this is a situation where clearly this compounding process is now really flicking into our favor, and we are able to generate these kinds of expansions.
But Mr. Sanyal, one thing, of course, is that, we're number 4 now, and if we continue in the same trajectory, 6% plus growth over the next couple of years, the expectation is that India would surpass Germany by the middle of 2027. Germany is currently growing at under 1%, and India is growing at over 6%. But it also comes at a time of intense, economic uncertainty, particularly on the trade front. You've seen the Trump tariffs, etc. What do you reckon are the headwinds between now and, let's say, 2027, when India is expected to surpass Germany, that could be an impediment in this fast rate of growth?
Well, there are two parts to this. When you're talking about international headwinds, do remember this is about relative performance when you're talking about rankings of economies. So if it's hurting us, it's also hurting Germany. So from that limited perspective, international headwinds don't really matter because both Germany and India face it. So we are growing at 6%, they're growing at less than 1%. So in that sense, in about 18 months to 24 months, we will surpass them. But in absolute terms, this is an issue. We are, growing at somewhere in the 6.5% range. But of course, despite the fact that we are the world's fourth largest economy now, in per capita terms, we are still quite poor. So we would like to grow even faster than this, perhaps over 7% a year. But it's difficult to do this under these circumstances. So, if in purely from a ranking perspective, it might not matter. But in terms of Viksit Bharat and our ambition of becoming a developed country over the next quarter of a century, this uncertainty does matter.
So what needs to be done to amp up that per capita income growth? Because India is currently about $2,500 per capita. China is probably 5 times more than that, more than $10,000 per capita. And in a big country with a young population, a large young population, how do you amp up that particular parameter?
So first of all, we are no longer at 2,500. We are now somewhere around $3,000 per capita income, which is still low, and there too this compounding process will matter. So of course, I point out to them that in order to have higher per capita GDP, you need to have larger GDP. So this growth that we just talked about is important, but we need to speed it up, and we will be doing this sustaining this growth at a time where the external environment may not be as conducive as was the case during China's high growth phase. There are many things that we therefore consequently need to do in terms of being flexible about the new environment. One of them is that we need to build quickly on bilateral trade deals, because if we do want our export sector to add to our growth, then we need to adapt. So as you know, we have now recently done a free trade agreement with the UK. We are in advanced discussions on free trade with the US as well as with the European Union. And of course, we already have existing ones with Australia, Japan, the UAE, and so on. So we are building up a network of bilateral free trade agreements in order to be able to keep our export markets open. So that's one big area. The second big thing is to keep our domestic growth momentum going. And there, of course, many important things have happened in the last few years. One is that we have managed to bring inflation into a reasonable range of 2 to 6% with the inflation targeting. And in fact, right now, inflation is running at only 3%. So that gives us a degree of freedom to bring down our cost of capital in the long to medium run. So that is something very, very important, because once you brought down the cost of capital, that's important. Secondly, while there are always complaints about improving the GST, but the fact is, GST.
All right, welcome back. You're with the Breakfast Club, and it's time now to take you through our person of interest today.
It's time to meet someone who's done something very, very special. We have with us on the show Lakshmikanta Mandal, or Lucky as he likes to be called. He's a constable with the 3rd Battalion of the West Bengal State Armed Police, and until very recently, he was best known as the personal security guard to Kolkata's police commissioner. But this month, he stood on top of the world, and we mean that very literally, as he summited Mount Everest. Now, Mandal's journey began a few years ago when he climbed Pinnacle Peak first. That's a peak or a summit in Ladakh.
Now, he didn't do it alone. Mandal is now the 4th person from Bengal to summit Everest in just 4 days. The feat that speaks not just of his physical strength, but to his patience, his determination as well. He may not be a household name, but today on The Breakfast Club, we are thrilled to bring you the story of a man who climbed his way into history. Take a brief look, then we'll chat with him.
लक्ष्मीकांत तो बहुत बहुत बधाई हो इतना ऊंचाई में पहुंचने के लिए बहुत बहुत बधाई CNN न्यूज़ 18 की तरफ से। ये बताओ कि ये सब शुरू हुआ, अभी कैसा महसूस हो रहा है? पहले
सबको थैंक यू। तो अभी तो बहुत खुश लग रहा है, और बाकी क्या बोलूँ, मैं सच में बहुत खुश हूँ कि अल्लाह की भी हूँ कि इस काम के लिए मुझे चुना गया, मेरे अंदर वो टैलेंट है, इसको देखा गया। और बाकी वहाँ पर जाके अब मुझे थोड़ा कॉन्फिडेंस था कि हम कर देंगे, किसी भी जगह पर हम कदम रख सकता हूँ, क्योंकि मैं HMI से जब बेसिक किया, एडवांस किया, सर्च एंड रेस्क्यू किया, फिर खुद को एक बार देखने के लिए हम लद्दाख गया 7000 में, तब मुझे उस टाइम में पूरा कॉन्फिडेंस आ गया था कि हम दुनिया में किसी भी जगह कदम रख सकते हैं। तो जब मेरे को मौका मिला तो हमने कोर्स में किया। इंटरेस्ट तो भी था, सबने भी बोला और सबने खुद पैसा दिया, तो बेसिक कोर्स में डाला। हाँ, तो फिर उम्मीद जगाया कि अच्छा करके आओगे तो एडवांस पे भी डालेंगे, ऐसे करके करके हम कोर्स करके चले गए ऐसे।
Night when he started his journey from Camp 4 to the summit, I was monitoring it till 2 a.m. Because I could not sleep. There was some excitement and some kind of tension, of course. But by 8:30 we got the news, and it was the best news, which we usually, it is difficult for us to get such kind of news. It was the happiest moment, and for him and for his family, for Kolkata police, for West Bengal police, and it was something we were eagerly waiting for last many years. We are happy, and he is happy. He has achieved a big milestone in his life, and all this shows his physical and mental fitness, his courage, determination, great discipline.
All right, so that was the police commissioner of Kolkata actually talking about his accolades. But let's introduce the man himself. Lakshmikanta is now with us on TBC this morning. Hello, नमस्कार, टीवी पर हमारे शो पर आपका स्वागत है लक्ष्मीकांता जी। पहले तो नमस्ते, बहुत कंग्रेचुलेशंस, आपने जो एवरेस्ट पर आप पहुंच गए। तो जो लोग ये देख रहे हैं और उनको लगता है कि क्या करते हैं लोग, क्यों जाते हैं एवरेस्ट पर, क्यों माउंटेन क्लाइंब करना इतना इम्पोर्टेंट है, वो फीलिंग क्या होता है, आप डिस्क्राइब कर सकते हैं जब आप पहली बार वो माउंटेन की पीक देखते हैं जिसके लिए आपने मंथ्स तक प्रिपेयर करा है, वो फाइनल देखने के बाद पहला थॉट क्या आता है, वो बताएंगे हमारे दर्शकों को।
पहले तो जब हम रोटेशन खत्म करके बेस कैंप आया तो मुझे अब 5 तारीख को हम आ गया था, लेकिन हमें इंतजार करना पड़ा। तब मेरे को जो कंपनी का ओनर, उन्होंने एक गुड वेदर के लिए, विंडो के लिए इंतजार कर रहे थे, तो मेरे को 15 तारीख को मौका मिला। तो जब 15 तारीख में बहुत एक्साइटमेंट मेरे अंदर काम कर रहे थे कि मेरे को, सबको लगा था कि मेरे से होगा। सब सिरपा भी चाहते थे मेरे साथ जाने के लिए, तो हमने जो सिरपा मेरे को मिला उसी के साथ हमने किया। तो जब 4 नंबर क्रॉस करके हम 8:30 बजे निकले थे रात को, तो जब हम सुबह पहुंच जा तो हिलरी स्टेप की पूरा नजदीक हम किया। तो मेरे को लगा था कि हिलरी स्टेप वही है चौड़ाई सबसे ऊंची चोटी। तो जब हिलरी स्टेप में गया तब पहली बार हम एवरेस्ट को देखा कि हाँ, यहाँ से बहुत थोड़ा आगे वो है समिट पॉइंट और वो है एवरेस्ट। तो सच में एक अलग फीलिंग्स हो रहा था, ये बहुत अच्छा लगा था कि हम हमारा सपना का बहुत करीब आ गए।
वाह, ठीक है, हम इसके बारे में और पूछेंगे आपसे, बट पहले आप हमें ये बताइए, जब आप चढ़ रहे थे, जो भी वो टाइम था जिसमें आप माउंट एवरेस्ट को चढ़ रहे थे, समिट कैंप, बेस कैंप से लेके ऊपर तक, उस टाइम कोई ऐसा एक समय आया जिसमें आपके अंदर ये फीलिंग था कि मैं नहीं कर पाऊंगा, कुछ ऐसा था, मतलब डर आपके अंदर, या बिल्कुल नहीं था बिकॉज आपने इतनी तैयारी की थी?
हाँ, बिल्कुल नहीं था, क्योंकि पहले तो हमने बहुत सारे पहले से ही एवरेस्ट का छोटा मोटा वीडियो देख के यूट्यूब से हम बहुत प्लानिंग कर लिया था। फिर हमारा जो साहब, हमने जो सीपी साहब है, श्री मनोज कुमार वर्मा के सर, तो उन्होंने एक टीम बनाया था। तो टीम के हिसाब से वो 2 ऑफिसर भी हमारा सर, तो वो भी हमारे साथ जाने से कुछ बोले गया कि वो हमारा साथ नहीं जाएगा, लेकिन कुछ दिन पहले वो पहुंच जाएगा। तो हम जिस दिन समिट सबके लिए गए थे उससे कुछ दिन पहले वो पहुंच गया था उधर। तो उधर हमारा जो सब कुछ, जो भी सुविधा असुविधा जो कुछ भी होगा, प्लान के मुताबिक जैसे हम चल पाए, तो उन्होंने वो इंतजाम किया सब कुछ। तो मेरे को बिल्कुल डर नहीं था कि हम ऐसा कि कुछ हो गया तो क्या होगा नहीं होगा।
ओके।
मेरे लिए पूरा अरेंजमेंट था। हम लोगों का एक टीम था, वो टीम बहुत अच्छा काम किया।
आपने टीम का बात किया तो मैं जानना चाहती हूँ कि आपकी टीम में बहुत अनोखे लोग थे। एक शोपा था जिसके बारे में आपने बात करा है, एक कंप्लीटली ब्लाइंड वुमन भी थी जिन्होंने आपके साथ माउंट एवरेस्ट तक चढ़ी हैं वो। तो वो पूरा एक्सपीरियंस कैसा था? आप लोगों ने हेल्प किया एक दूसरे का, कैसे करा वो?
हाँ, मतलब कि उनका पर्सनल शेरपा था, और बाकी दिल्ली का एक जो ओनर है इंडिया का कंपनी का, जो उनको लेके गया था, उनका साथ चलते थे। तो उनका कुछ भी मतलब कि वो दीदी का सिर्फ थोड़ा टाइम लगता था, ठीक है, हम लोगों का पीछे आ रहे थे, तो ऑब्वियसली उनका टाइम लगता है। तो लेकिन उनको सराउंडिंग के बारे में बोल देने से वो समझ जाते।
वाह।
उनका एक स्टिक है, वो स्टिक से मदद से उनको कहाँ पर पैर रखना है वो पता कर लेते।
लकी जी, जब आप नीचे पहुंचे, आपके आई बिलीव भाई बहन हैं, तो उनका क्या रिएक्शन था? मम्मी पापा, मतलब आपने कॉल किया बेस कैंप से या कहाँ से फ़ोन लगता है, और कैसे बताया आपने उन्हें?
मतलब वहाँ पे बेस कैंप पे हम बेस कैंप से हमारा सब कोई फोन करते थे, वीडियो कॉल। बाकी हम नहीं करते थे क्योंकि उधर जो फोन का जो डेटा पैक मिलता था, 10 GB का डेटा पैक का रेट है वो $3000।
हाँ।
तो इसीलिए हमने बहुत कोशिश करके लिया था, लेकिन हम सबको नहीं करते थे, सिर्फ हमारा जो साथ है उनको ही हम करते थे
बताने के लिए। पर जब फाइनली आपने अपने बहन हो या भाई हो या पिता माता से बात किया फाइनली, तो उनका क्या रिएक्शन था? क्योंकि आप इसकी तैयारी काफी समय से कर रहे थे।
हाँ, उनका रिएक्शन मतलब कि उनको बिलीव नहीं था कि हम ऐसे जा रहे हैं, हम लोग जा सकते हैं। लेकिन फाइनली जब हम बताया तो वो लोगों को भी बहुत अच्छा लगा, खुश हुआ, बहुत खुश है।
हम देख सकते हैं कि काफ़ी अपने तरीके से, अपने शायद तरीके से काफ़ी सारा हुआ। पुलिस कमिश्नर ने आपके लिए पूरी मीडिया को बुलाया, पिक्चर्स वगैरह हुई, तो काफ़ी सेलिब्रेट करा। इसकी मुझे बताएंगे तैयारी कैसे करनी पड़ती है एवरेस्ट क्लाइम करने के लिए? मतलब आप एक ऑलरेडी आप फोर्स में हैं तो उसकी अलग तरीके की तैयारी होती है। माउंटेन क्लाइम करने की तैयारी किस तरह से करनी पड़ती है?
माउंटेन तैयारी मतलब कि हमें जो लगा, जो हम अपना जो इंडोरेंस, अगर बहुत सारे लोगों को, हमारा जो कॉलीग है उसको टाइम नहीं मिलता है, सुबह ड्यूटी जाना पड़ता है, और फिर रात को कब आता है, तो रेगुलर बेसिस से वो लोग जाते भी है, कोई लोग चाहेगा तो भी नहीं हो पाते हैं। लेकिन मैं किस्मत वाला हूँ कि हमने सबको पास ड्यूटी करते हैं, तो ऑब्वियसली सब भी सुबह मॉर्निंग वॉक में जाते हैं, हम भी जाते हैं, तो इसलिए हमें मॉर्निंग वॉक का बहुत सुविधा मिलता है, तो टाइम भी मिलता है बहुत। तो इसलिए हम रोज मॉर्निंग वॉक में जाते हैं, दौड़ते हैं। हमारा इंड्योरेंस जो है, मैं उसको मेंटेन करता हूँ। तो इसी हिसाब से मुझे बहुत फायदा हुआ।
ओके, लकी जी, हमें मतलब आपकी पूरी तैयारी के बारे में बताने के लिए धन्यवाद। हमें ये भी पूछना था कि अब इसके आगे क्या है, बट थोड़ा हमारा समय खत्म हो गया है। थैंक यू फॉर टेकिंग आउट द टाइम टू स्पीक टू अस। लकी जी, आगे के लिए गुड लक। जो भी अभी आप पीक्स और आगे जो करेंगे, वो क्लाइम करेंगे, उसके लिए गुड लक। ऑलराइट, लेट्स मूव ऑन नाउ फ्रॉम दिस टू समथिंग स्लाइटली डिफरेंट। Okay, we're taking you now from the mountains down to the roads. We take a closer look at the all-new Lamborghini Temerario. It's launched in India at 6 crore rupees.
Now, with its powerful hybrid powertrain and sleek design, this supercar is sure to turn heads. It's a Lamborghini after all. But is it really worth the hype? Overdrive has the full verdict.
Hi everyone, I'm Kranti Zamba. Welcome to Overdrive, and my Lamborghini Temerario is here, and this is a car which many car enthusiasts and bike enthusiasts as well, they were waiting for this one. Why? Because this machine can go up to 10,000 RPMs. Yes, that is something which you see in super bikes generally, but let me get back to this product. This is launched at an ex-showroom price of, it's starting at an ex-showroom price of rupees 6 crores. This is fitted with 4-liter V8 engine, and let's talk about some numbers. So combined output is around 920 CV and 730 Newton meters of torque, and this is fitted with 8-speed DCT, and the top speed is 343 kmph. And how much time does it take to reach the speed of 100 kmph? Just 2.7 seconds. Temerario comes with 3 electric motors as well, 2 of them on the front axle with a peak output of around 300 PS to help with all-wheel drive system. It gets a 3.8 kWh battery pack which can be charged by plugging it in or by region braking or from the V8 engine itself. So Temerario means reckless in Italian, and this new design also means more aggressive outlook and better aerodynamics designs. Lots of elements in this car. If we look at this headlamp cluster overall design, this looks more compact and sharp. And if you look at this DRL, which is hexagonal in shape and incorporates air dam as well, and lots of carbon fiber finish. If you can look at this, and this is fitted with 20-inch wheels at the front, 21-inch at the rear. Major work has been done on the aerodynamics department of Lamborghini Temerario so that the car goes, cools and stops faster. The changes mean a 103% increase in rear downforce compared to the Huracan Evo. With the optional Alleggerita pack, rear downforce is further increased by 158%. This looks very different from the car we have seen, Huracan, but at the same time, this sounds different as well. So let's take a listen at the exhaust notes, what we heard at the time of this launch. If you look at the design of this element, you see lots of scoops and air dams, as I mentioned, and that's why this has better figures, both aerodynamics and downforce. The bike enthusiast in me is really eager to listen to this car when it's revving up to 10,000 RPM, and I'm really looking forward to driving this car. And a car enthusiast who's as tall as me, almost 60, that enthusiast is also happy because they've improved the headroom and knee room as well. So what do you think about this car, the figures, the price, and the kind of design elements you have seen in this Temerario? Do let us know in the comment section, and thanks for watching. Bye bye, drive safely, ride safely, see you soon.
MDH video. This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
We're getting a breaking input at this point. CRPF ASI arrested for sharing secrets with Pakistan, stationed in Pahalgam just 5 days before Pahalgam terrorist attack. Assistant Sub-Inspector Moti Ram Jat has been arrested for allegedly leaking sensitive information to Pakistan intelligence operatives. Now, the NIA, seeking custody from a special NIA court, underscored the urgency of interrogating Moti Ram, particularly due to his strategic posting in Pahalgam mere days before the attack. Now, the court granted a 15-day custody period, emphasizing the need to probe the extent of information Moti Ram may have compromised in this sensitive region. Now, the NIA is investigating potential links between the leaked intelligence and the terrorist attack that happened in Pahalgam. I'm now joined by CNN News 18's Anshul Singh on this broadcast. Anshul, take us through what are the allegations against this CRPF ASI as far as the espionage case is concerned?
Well, this is a very, very serious case that has come to the fore remember the said ASI Motiram Jat was actually deployed in Pahalgam itself, and he was constantly sharing intelligence with his handlers who were sitting across the border since 2023. What is even shocking to note that he was in fact transferred out of Pahalgam on the 17th of April itself. That is just 5 days before the dreaded Pahalgam terrorist attack happened. It was due to the awareness of the CRPF itself that the accused was in fact arrested. Initially, on the 17th of May, the CRPF in fact questioned him for several days, for at least 4 days. And once the CRPF got the evidences that it was looking for, they removed him from the services. They not only removed him from the services, but also gave him to the NIA, and further NIA has taken a 15-day custody of the said accused. Now, Motiram Jat was in fact sharing all this intelligence while he was stationed in Pahalgam in exchange of money. This money was in fact being given to him through different avenues as well. So definitely there is a large nexus that this time around has come to the fore, and it is absolutely shocking that.
Welcome back. Next, we're going to take you to a special section on financial markets powered by Money Control Pro. It's Money Control's premium destination for investing and business insights. All right, we're going to start by bringing you an overview on the markets, with GIFT Nifty indicating a subdued opening for Indian stock markets. Asian stock markets have opened on a cautious note in Tuesday morning trades. Crude oil prices are edging lower on oversupply concerns. Gold prices are easing after US has delayed imposing tariffs on the EU.
Let's look at the sector in focus this morning. The household consumer wear sector has benefited from steady demand growth. The organized sector has benefited particularly as the premiumization theme has played out. The government's non-tariff measures to sort of curb cheap imports will also benefit Indian companies. And you can log into Money Control Pro to find out more about the consumer goods and retail sectors and various other actionable insights on the markets. It's a premier destination for all the investing views and financial insights you will ever need, brought to you by Money Control. All right, with that, a quick programming note. Introducing our all-new global business channel, the CNBC TV 18 Prime is here.
It's your new destination for worldwide market insights, and it's India's only premium 24-hour business news channel, giving you macroeconomic coverage and strategic intelligence. You can tune in to watch it today.
All right, with that, we are drawing today's episode to a close. Tell us, what do you think about your managers? Tell us, what do you think about higher education as well? We would love to hear comments from you and any other story ideas you would like to us cover here, right here on TVC.
We'll be right here tomorrow bringing you one more dose of inspiration. We also hope you found our interview with Lucky a little inspiring. We hope to bring you more of this through the rest of the week. Again, send us your ideas. Where you can do that is on the bottom at CNN News 18 on X, for example. For now, though, that's all that we have for you. See you tomorrow.
Brought to you by. This is News 18